Okay.
We waiting for any?
I think do I have a thumbs up from IT? Have we started rolling?
We do have the attorney on call and not in person.
Okay. Do we need,
I don't know.
I really don't anticipate a need for the attorney given our agenda.
That's why
Yeah,
she's calling in.
yeah.
This is Wendy House from the City Attorney's Office.
Great.
Oh,
She is.
there you go. So we have the attorney here too. We'll wait for Dina to come back and hopefully we'll have a thumbs up from IT.
Check out my benches.
Oh, neat. I like it.
I
Yeah.
came up with a mushroom version, but I think this would be so powerful.
I love that. I love woodworking.
You have to follow.
Okay. With that, we'll call this meeting to order. Welcome. I'd like to call the February 17th, 2022 regular meeting of the Encinitas Planning Commission to order at 6:02. Please turn off your cell phones or set them to vibrate, which I did not do, so I will do. Agendas and speaker slips are available in the back of the room. And so first is roll call. Let the record reflect that all 5 of the planning commissioners are present. And next is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is oral comments. We start each meeting with oral comments where anyone wishing to speak on a topic not on tonight's agenda may request to do so by filling out one of the white speaker slips in the back of the room and handing it to the commission clerk. Comments or questions during oral comments cannot be addressed or discussed by the Planning Commission or staff, but may be referred to the appropriate staff. Dina, do we have any oral comments?
We do. We have Gerald Ann Kessler this evening.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I would like to speak about the Staver Environmental Nightmare Housing Project on Melba Road that is slated to take down a grove of mature Torrey pines, 173 trees, 30 smaller trees and native shrubs, along with demoing a beautiful historical home built in 1938 or possibly earlier, all based on the ill-fated density bonus law AB 2345. We recently reviewed several more documents from the city about the potential density bonus nightmare housing project and have found that it is once again filled with inaccurate information. My main concerns are the tree count not being accurate, the drainage and the hydrology report, which will be sending the runoff into Ocean Knoll Canyon, and lastly, the most important is the historical and cultural report findings. The cultural report was done by Cogstone and only goes back as far as the 50s, on the history of the property. As I mentioned before, the prior owner of the Staver property was also the prior owner of the Botanical Gardens property, Anton van Amersfoort, who owned the Staver property and sold it in 1938 based on a deed we found at the county. None of this is mentioned in the Cogstone report because they did not do their due diligence and go back far enough. The first 40 pages of the report go into detail about California's history, then discussed how qualified the people who are doing this study are. But Cogstone did not investigate what significance the property has to Encinitas history. This report is not sufficient, and I've been researching this since January 2021, and although it has been challenging to me because my background is mainly medical, I have been able to uncover the facts that this gentleman, Anton, owned the Staver property and was a key player in the development of Encinitas. He was a founding member of the Water District Board and served several years. During his time of service, the bond measure to supply water to Encinitas from Lake Hodges was accomplished. I find it disturbing that such a light dusting of the historical details was done. It makes me feel that a deep dive was not done on any of the important details in this project. Please have the city planner on this project go over these documents with a fine-tooth comb, because obviously the Cogstone organization hired by the Staver and Torrey Pacific does not have a clue on the historical value of this sacred property holds in Encinitas. I would also like to mention this neighborhood is filled with longtime tax-paying residents who simply just want to age in place. Now are being forced to deal with this stressful housing nightmare project that will impact this entire community. I know several senior citizen members of the area who again have had to seek medical help due to the stress this housing project has placed on them. This is not the way to respect the seniors of Encinitas. They don't deserve this. Please assist the community in acquiring this property from the Staver Trust for open space. Please tap into soft green infrastructure funding from the state or federal agencies. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Let's see. Next item is changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the published agenda? If not, we'll move on to the consent calendar. First up are items on the consent calendar. These items are considered non-controversial or routine in nature. All consent calendar items are typically voted on collectively in a single motion without any staff presentation, public comment, or commission deliberation. However, if a member of the public or a commissioner has requested a consent calendar item be heard, the item will be removed from the consent calendar and be given an individual hearing. To pull an item from consent, a member of the public should submit a pink speaker slip for the specific item number, and the item will be given an individual hearing. Items removed from the consent calendar will be heard individually immediately after the consent calendar vote. Tonight's consent calendar is made up of two items. Item 6A, the UMAR remodel, case number CDP 004827-2021, and this is a public hearing to consider a coastal development permit for the remodel of a condominium building, including raising the plate height on the western wall to 11 feet. Staff recommends this item be continued off calendar. The project is located at 1762 Tattenham Road in Leucadia. Item 6B, adopt the proposed 2022 Planning Commissioner meeting schedule. Let's see, do I have does anybody want to pull any of the items? No? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Waiting for it to show up on the computer. There we go. And so let's call the question. Great. We've adopted it. So there were no items removed from the consent calendar. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Next, we move on to the regular agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak on items listed on the agenda should submit a pink speaker slip to the commission clerk. On tonight's regular agenda, we have one item. Item 8A, Dove Hollow Lot Line Planning Commission Interpretation. Well, that's a mouthful. Case number multi 004890-2021. This is a public hearing to consider a planning commission interpretation for the proposed lot line adjustment to reduce a nonconformity between two adjacent parcels. The project is located at 3520 and 3532 Dove Hollow Road in Levenheim. Are there any disclosures? No? And we begin with a staff report presented by Associate Planner Kevin Parker.
So Kevin Parker is not here this evening because we are recommending that we continue the project.
Okay.
And it was on the basis that it was brought to our attention that Chapter 24.70 is not subject to Planning Commission interpretation. The municipal code is specific to zoning code interpretations that the Planning Commission can make. And so we did not feel that it was appropriate to bring it forward to this body. So that's why we had recommended to continue it off calendar, but it will not be coming forward to the commission as an interpretation.
Okay. I think there's still probably questions I have, so I want to go through and we'll get to the questions, and they're about the process as much as anything.
Sure.
So-
I may defer to the city attorney on whether we discuss it I don't know if it's appropriate to discuss it on this project or a future agenda item.
Well, I think there are particulars, because I also am concerned that like last night I sent the precedent, another precedent that was not in the staff report, not in the applicant's package, that was virtually identical in situation to this. It was in a Liebenhain, it was a 2-acre lot, it was moving a lot line between them. It was from 2008, and it actually went to the city council, and where it sent a precedent, I think a policy by the council decided not to, the staff report said it would require changing the municipal code to do essentially the exact same action we were going to consider or interpret tonight. And so I'm concerned that, A, somehow we missed that precedent, and B, that saying that it doesn't belong here isn't really the question. I want to know, is it going to come back as a case eventually? Would the case have to come here?
Sure. We have advised the applicant that the option that we have found so far, and we are still speaking with our legal counsel about if there are any other alternatives, but the one is for them to actually apply for the boundary line adjustment request. And then staff would make there would be 2 options. One, the director can make a decision on it, and then it can be appealed to Planning Commission, and then also appealed to City Council, or the project can actually be, from the director, passed on for a decision before the Planning Commission and not the director.
Okay, and so I wanted to make sure I go on the record right here and now that I want to see it come back here. So consider it, at least from the current Planning Commission chair, I would want to see it in front here. And I would love a chance to ask the rest of the commission, maybe we can do it during deliberation, what you think, so.
Understood.
Okay, great. So, yeah, are there, I guess the first step is, so there's no staff report for this other than the single-page memo for the continuation?
That is correct.
Okay. Are there any questions for clarification?
I had some questions, because the staff report referred to the precedents and how they're binding they can be, and yet we don't know how many other precedents are out there. It's like a hidden code, hidden zoning code that we don't know what it is. Is that collated somewhere, and can that be made available to the Planning Commission?
Your specific question is related to how many of these that were approved, the heads?
No, it has nothing to do with the lots. It has to do with the fact that it was mentioned in the staff report that if we made a decision to either apply this either to a site-wide or city-wide, it would create a precedent that would be binding. So it occurs to me that there's other precedents that must be binding, and I don't know what they are. And
That is correct. And so what we would need to do as staff is create a policy based on the decision that we now are aware of the 2008, and make that available, which is something currently staff is working on identifying any outdated policies and updating all of them so that they are available.
so, I mean, separate from just this case, I mean, are they hunting down the other precedents that have been set in different cases?
You mean the applicant? Is that the question?
No, not the applicant, the city,
Interpretation.
the interpretations.
Yes, we are going through all of our old archive documents
Okay.
and pulling everything that we can find right now, yes.
Because, yeah, it's like, I would like to see this brought before this commission and have us approve them, put a stamp on them, and if other ones show up after the fact, I would say that would invalidate them.
Where were they hiding?
Yeah, I don't like things pulled up out of the blue. So this is one that's been a discomfort for me for a while, and I think this is a great opportunity to bring it up since, the actions we take have impact.
So maybe that's a good one for the future agenda items added by planning commissioners.
Yep, I
So-
was planning to mention that then.
Okay, cool. Any other questions of clarification? If not, do we have any public speakers? It doesn't look like.
We do not.
Okay, so we have no public speakers, so other than, do we have to do a vote to continue this, or what do we, is that the next step?
I suppose that's our recommendation, and I suppose we probably do need that vote to agree to continue that.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
correct. You do need to vote on that.
Is there any, before we go there, is there any deliberation? I can see somebody's ready to make a motion here. So, okay,
I make a motion that we, what is it, continue this project?
Off
Or
calendar.
Off calendar.
I'll second it if that looks like,
Chris beat ya.
nope, Chris beat me to it, so very good. Any discussion? If not,
Well, I did have one point I wanted to bring up. It was that anything to do with the lot line adjustment, it affects our general plan, correct?
Yes, it can, yes.
And so having some EMC, the Encinitas Municipal Code, have some set policy is highly desirable to keep our general plan consistent.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Call a question? So it's- Great. So now on to future agenda items. Do you want to take a stab at it, Kevin, or?
Yeah, I think there is a list, oh, I'm not live, sorry. I mean, we know that there's a body of interpretations, and staff is the only one who can pull this together for us. So I'd like to make a formal request that we collate this information and schedule, agendize a meeting where we can discuss this with the public and have it properly noticed. And I'm sure there's some gems in there.
And would you take a friendly amendment to this, that
I
we
would.
put a time horizon on that of the next couple of
Well,
months, you know,
Well,
maybe?
let's ask Anna, what do you think's reasonable?
Well, we've been trying to get to this for some time. And so if the commission would like to put a time limit on it, then staff will have to do our best to meet that.
Any recommendations for time?
I certainly want it before the July break, is what I'm thinking.
Okay, so that's,
I mean, this is something that I've been personally pushing for, and we had a previous interpretation that was, which one was it? The drive-through, the Cardiff drive-through. And I just happened to watch the hearing, the city council appeal of that. And the more I heard it and listened to it, the more it was just the case and not really an interpretation. So I think there's two things I would look for in this future agendized item. One would be a compilation of the interpretations here to date. And those, and have them in a place on the internet that both applicants and the, near where the municipal code is, because it's really an interpretation. Where both applicants and residents can get to it, and planning commissioners, hopefully. And then number two would be, when is it appropriate to do an interpretation, and why do an interpretation? Why not just try the case in front of you, act? And I was talking to Anna about it and went back to the Supreme Court policy as an example. They do not render opinions, they only try cases, specific cases, and I think we ought to be doing the same. But, that's a future agenda item. So I think there are two components that I would look for.
so first step, I think, is to find out what's under the hood. And I think if we could get that in the next 3 to 4 months, 4 months would be mid-June, that would be ideal.
Can I ask a question? Do we have any concept of how many interpretations have been made since the city incorporated in 1987 or 86?
We have found a stack of them, and we have to sift through them because they're across the board of, internal holiday policies versus something that's actually related to the municipal code and things like that. But we have found two locations in which we saw a hard copy, and then we saw some digital, and now we have to go through, see if there's any repeats, and And so there's a process that we're going through.
Right.
And this
in
has
our-
been going on for quite a while.
But to clarify, you're asking for a compilation of all interpretations made at the city, not only interpretations relating to lot splits.
I'm personally only interested in ones that apply to the planning commission, planning, zoning, although council interpretations, it's hard to say. You start stripping away, vacation holiday interpretations. So I was thinking primarily things that impact my work here.
Well, I think that's limited to our purview anyways. So
But, I mean,
I would hope that's all we were talking about was
But there
planning
are,
commission
but there are
interpretations.
council interpretations that directly impact our work, such as
Totally,
such
yeah,
as the one on, back in 2008.
yeah. Well, and that wasn't tracked as an interpretation where it has the INTPR or whatever.
Okay.
Right? So that's even a bigger question, is how are precedents, how are policies and resolutions of the city council tracked so that the planning commission follows it? And I'm gonna repeat a little bit of what I just said. In this case, if we look at the case that was before us, we just listened to, if you look at the history, there was a 1992 decision followed by a 2014, 2017. This council decision was right in the middle there, where they made a very clear policy, yet of not changing the municipal code and not accepting lot line adjustments, yet subsequent to that, and probably under two different directors of planning, because we've had a few rotate through, they approved something that would be in violation of that city council policy twice. So I think there's a bigger process issue within the city that needs to be solved relative to planning and implementation of tracking of past resolutions, past policies, and interpretations. So
If they're not easy to pull up and for everyone in the public to look at, then it starts to be, seem like kind of an unfair situation where
Yeah.
some people, oh, we've pulled this rabbit out of our hat, but you know rabbit for
Yeah,
you.
One thing I would really like to see in that compilation are the reasons why people applied. For example, if it was a surveying error, okay, or if it was some other reason,
yeah.
I'd want to know what reason they had.
So for the agenda item, the future agenda item that you're suggesting, can I make a recommendation to see if everybody agrees? I think we should just be looking at planning commission decided interpretations that this body in the past did, and just to try and catch up and pull the history together to one place, so that in the future, if somebody finds some lost interpretation, we can say, hey, wait, that wasn't ever considered when we got our system in place. I wasn't trying to pull in all of the city council resolutions and all that. I just want to get the planning department and commission decisions in order.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
To this motion. I think that makes sense to stick to our purview.
Yeah,
There will probably be another project. Once everyone sees how successful this one was, then council will want to know what's going on with their things.
yeah.
So that was the motion.
I'm trying to think through the backlog at the city. I mean, how many planners are available to sift through this stuff, and what is the pile of paper that's going to
So this has been going on in the background for over a year, and they actually got most of them together at this point. So most of the work, I think, at least the initial work, because I've been asking for it also for quite a while, and so there's a folder full.
And is there is the website set up in a way that this stuff can be, I mean, I don't program websites, but it seems like a task to put together a search field that people in the public could then go to the website and find all this information. Is that a onerous challenge, or is that a simple thing that's already enabled in the website?
That's something that I can look into as part of this process.
But by way of example, the Housing Element Task Force had 20-some meetings with, all told, hundreds of documents over better part of a year. That all went up on the website and was updated weekly. And so we're talking probably less information than was handled in that example. So this is pretty standard. I am an engineer. I don't put up websites, but I know what it takes. It doesn't take that much. So this could be handled. But step one, even if it's in hard copy paper in Anna's office, we need to know what is the limit, what is the bounds of these interpretations so that we can leverage them in the future. Because right now, in the last, 2 months, we've had 2 come up in front of us where they're asking that we make interpretations, and we're just adding to the pile, but we don't know what the pile is yet. So I really think that this commission should be aware of it ahead of time. And in fact, it may have been before Steve or Chris were on, and I'm not sure Susan, we had one interpretation we reversed, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they don't come up often, all the more reason that they should be better tracked. So I think all we're asking is, tonight is setting the agenda, asking whether it can be put on the agenda, and I'm just looking to see if we agree on the bounds of that agenda item and if it should be an agenda item.
I would agree with the idea of pulling this information together. I am hesitant to set a date that, I don't know, we're saying by July this has to have been done and it's up on the website, or by July they need to come back and report to us that what's happening?
It needs to be agendized and we go through what's there.
Oh, we're going to go through every interpretation together?
At least read them. We should read them.
Okay.
I mean, we need to
Understood.
know them,
Yeah.
right?
I don't think we're going to be like debating each and every one, but I can see flagging a half dozen
Yeah.
of them saying, I would like to have these come back to us so we can reinterpret interpretations.
And again,
It'll be a book, basically.
We want to reinterpret old interpretations now?
I don't know if I do or not, but I don't know what they are.
I want to understand them.
So there would be a database that was available to you to read them, but we're not going to spend a council or a public hearing reading them together, are we?
Not together.
You're worried we're going to do a page by page, line by line?
Hey, I've seen objective design standards and how that goes.
I'm hoping that's not required.
No, because this is not wordsmithing anything.
I mean,
This-
these
this
are
is-
just,
This is having them available for us and more importantly for future commissions, planning commissions to use. So when they do come up, they're not coming out of the unknown. I mean, it's in my mind, it's just open government.
So I have a question about Kevin's comment, because I don't know, can we reinterpret without a case coming in front of us for us to make an interpretation? So I don't know that we would be making any reinterpretations. I think we'd be looking to see what interpretations exist, maybe categorizing them in some way and organizing them
I agree.
for the future.
perhaps
and-
not at this meeting, but that's a good question for our lawyer. Can we look at an interpretation and say, no, that's just wrong?
Well, and that's a good question for the meeting, but you know how I talked about an extra, the pulling together was part of the meeting, and the other part was, when do we do an interpretation? I think that's exactly, Chris, you hit right on the point that I want to get to, is what is the process whereby the planning commission should be called upon to do an interpretation? When, back in my first round 20 years ago on the planning commission, I don't remember ever doing an interpretation, but I remember having these, I'll call them strange pre-meetings with applicants to give them opinions where we couldn't quite discuss the project, but we had to tell them where we were leaning. And I thought that was odd too. And so the interpretation seems to be the modern reincarnation of that same process, in my opinion.
Is that our choice of what gets brought to us as interpret? Like, so tonight, this item, staff decided or found a code provision that said, actually, it wasn't our choice in the first place, right? It was on our agenda, taken off. We said, well, actually, it doesn't go to planning commission ever. We couldn't unilaterally decide that that should come to planning commission, right? I mean, doesn't the city council decide what items are planning commission decisions?
Rather than try and answer that tonight, because we don't want to try and discuss it tonight, I think that's exactly the kind of question I would look to have come up at this future meeting. Is that fair? Was that the city attorney about to hop in to say the same thing or something similar?
I agree with that recommendation. I could answer, though, that there is regulations that are currently codified in the municipal code that permits either the department staff or an applicant to request an interpretation from the appropriate board, whether it be the city council or the planning commission.
Okay.
Just to give you a precursor of what will be coming back.
Okay.
But there are certain provisions within the municipal code right now that kind of present a pathway of when interpretations can be requested and whether they should come from the planning commission or the city council.
Okay. So I think getting back to all we were trying to do was add something to the agenda. I want to make sure we stay on
Yeah.
that.
Let's
And-
just do it informational, and we'll see what comes from it.
Okay, so basically, two components to it for this item in a future agenda, that it cover the interpretations that we have in hand and know of and has some index of that we can look at. And then also understand the interpretation process and when it happens, you know, what's the law behind it, and what would the process be for reaffirming or changing a past interpretation?
Yeah.
Is that the agenda item?
That is the agenda item.
I'm seeing general nods, so,
I see-
okay, good.
I see the interpretations as an appendix, and
Yes.
the first part is as an informational item. So that's a motion. It's easy enough, I hope.
Yeah, do we need a
Shall I
vote on?
say it again?
I think we don't need a vote for
Do we not?
adding agenda items now. I
Okay.
think we have consensus.
Yeah, we
I
have-
No,
saw,
you don't
I've
need a
seen
vote for
nods,
that.
little nods, big nods, you know, and I hope it's not nodding to sleep already, so, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we thought we'd be home by 6:30.
Yeah,
and it's
I know,
already
we're,
6:32.
okay. So, any other future agenda items? No? No, moving on. Planning Commission reports, are there any Planning Commissioner reports? No? City Planner reports?
Yes, thank you. The chair mentioned that the city council heard the appeal on the Jack in the Box drive-through, and the city council denied the appeal and upheld planning commission's decision. They did add a little bit extra that I was told by the planner, that the city council had interpreted that the site improvements did constitute an intensity of the use, and therefore were not in compliance with the nonconformity regulations. So that's one item. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. And then the other is that there will be a special joint session meeting on March 9th for the SB 9 issue,
Good.
topic, I should say.
And then we've got the rescheduled native
And
plant ordinance
Correct.
on the 31st.
31st, correct. And that's all I have.
Okay, and with that, thank you, everyone. The next regularly scheduled meeting is March 3rd, which may have a very light agenda also. So there's this tidal wave coming probably right behind it, just so we don't get
Just in time
too-
for the tidal wave, I should mention I am out of town on the April 7th meeting. So it's a great day to pile in some
And
multi-thousand page
I expect to be
reports.
gone that meeting as well.
April, which one?
7th.
April 7th. It's the second week of school holiday. We're heading to Florida to see my mom for the first time in 2.5 years.
I might miss the meeting following that as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's the spring break for the high school?
Yeah. Depending on workload, and so would the,
I'm going to Thailand. Spring
yeah,
break
so
for
maybe
high
the
school.
question should be, it,
Can we have a moment to look at our calendars?
yeah,
Because Steve might be gone too.
oh my goodness.
I mean,
I can look it up.
if we were to push it to the 14th, I could deal with that.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
We may need to reschedule, if we do have
Depending on workload.
large projects, like our 30 projects, multiple ones coming, we may end up having to schedule an extra planning commission meeting in between some of these weeks. And if we have a conflict where we have to cancel one, maybe we can just have a special meeting a week before or a week after. So if anybody has suggestions on availability dates,
I will have to look to make sure there are no conflicting other commissions on the dates, so we can give you those open dates, and then you can decide from there.
Yeah.
And I can bring that next.
has everybody just gone? Well, it sounds like Chris might be gone 2 weeks, or at least,
I may be just gone the spring break for San Diego High School,
okay.
and I don't know when that is, but it sounds like it's
Well, spring break for the elementary school is last week of March, first week of April. And I think they just recently changed that, so it should match the high school vacations periods as well.
It is, that for the high school district, it is the week that includes the 7th of April.
And out of curiosity, do you have the bounds of the high school?
It's 1 week, it's the 4th through the 8th.
4th through the 8th, so.
Yeah.
That would mean that prior to the 4th, probably at the, well, we already have the 3/31 meeting, so maybe after the, what was it, the 7th?
We have
14th?
a 3/17 is the last one in March.
Except for the 3/31
Oh,
meeting.
I'm sorry, the native plant policy.
Native plant meeting.
Yes. So am I hearing that there's a possibility of a cancellation of the April 7th with finding an alternative April date? Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Okay.
Yeah, and it sounds like it has to be outside of that first week, so, okay. Thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. Boy, this scheduling idea is really nice, you know, we can decide ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
It's vacations like we never knew it before.
So I was halfway through the adjournment. And so our next regularly scheduled meeting is March 3rd, and this meeting is now adjourned to the regular Planning Commission meeting of March 3rd, 2022 at 6 PM. Is that record?